Hey, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Walk in Faith. I'm excited to be sitting down with Dennis Quaid. Dennis, you and I had a wonderful conversation several years ago, so I'm excited to be sitting down with you again to talk about this amazing film, Reagan. Thank you so much.
Great to be here, Craig. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. It's funny, I have the Reagan luggage tag on my suitcase. I've been waiting for this film. So, like I said, it's fun. I literally have a pen, I have a button. So I know this film took a long time, but we're really excited. So, when you were doing research and emotional preparation to prepare for such a role as Reagan, did you see a lot of similarities between your life, maybe your walk in faith, and Ronald Reagan's life and career and journey?
At first, no, I didn't. I was asked to play the role, and I outside of we're both actors, both have kind of a sunny disposition. I think the role, the idea of doing the role scared me, I guess, actually, and it took a while for me to say yes. And when I went to the Reagan Ranch, which was the Western White House. And it's not open to the public. It was bought by a circle of friends around the Reagans, and they basically kept it. It's frozen in time. Their clothes are in the closet. In fact, you feel like Ron and Nancy are going to come back at any time. And when I went there, I drove up the 5 miles of the worst road in California to get there, and got on top. That it opened up and came into the property. That's when it hit me that I could feel the core of Ronald Reagan there. I realized he was a humble man, actually, and the house is there. The Western White House is 1,100 square feet.
Wow.
And hardly 2 bedrooms. And they had a king size bed, but it was 2 single beds that were zip tied together. The kitchen appliances are all GE. He used to be the spokesman for GE. And so I'm sure he got a little deal on that, friends and family. And the books, the library there, which is, a bookshelf, beautiful bookshelf, huge when you come into the front door. Every book that Reagan had going back to when he was 9 years old is on a shelf.
Wow.
And you can really feel him there. And that's when I said yes to doing it.
So when you were ready, because you mentioned that you were frightened or you were a little concerned or scared when you first got this opportunity, and then let's say the first day of shooting, when you really dove into the script, did you realize at that moment that, say, the fear was sort of, let's say, the enemy was using that fear to distract you or take you away from doing a film like this? Did you realize at that point that this was all meant to be part of sort of God's plan?
Yeah, yes, I did. That fear that I had was really a fear of my comfort zone, and realized, I needed to do this. That fear that I feel is usually, it's a sign that, yes, this is where you should go. That's the fear, the fear of God. You can put it that way. Although that's not really the definition, I think, but it's that fear is something that's not in your comfort zone, that you feel you're not worthy or whatever, but that's where you need to go, I think. But to overcome your fears. That's
Yeah.
part of God's plan as far as your purpose and your journey.
No, you're right. And it's interesting to hear that from you. I mean, you've done hundreds of films and TV shows, and you wouldn't think, that someone like Dennis Quaid, right, who's how many films have come out in a year, that you would actually still, feel that sense of fear. But you're right, it comes to all of us.
Yeah, well, he was my favorite president, number one. And then again, Reagan's kind of like Muhammad Ali. Everybody in the world knows who he is and can identify him, one of the most identifiable figures in history. And so, that fear of judgment and, I'm not worthy. And I didn't want to do an impersonation of him, and I didn't want to do just a love letter, because he's my hero. I wanted to try to get a way to get to the core of who he was. Because when I play somebody, and I've played several people, real people, I try to do the character from their point of view. And also it's always going to be me. You can't get away from yourself. But I guess it's my interpretation of the question is, what would I do if I were this person in this situation?
I love that.
And, that means getting behind to who they were, what makes people tick.
That's very interesting. And some of the things, especially like you mentioned about Muhammad Ali and Reagan, I mean, there's so many wonderful speeches, tear down that wall, similar to like Muhammad Ali's, sort of famous quotes. But what was some of
We're
the things?
both really good at that,
Yes.
those short little things,
they sort of stick with you, right? I could see the T-shirt made. But what was some of the things that you learned about Reagan that we could apply to whether it's culture, society, politics, things that are still sort of applicable today?
Well, like I said, the first thing that hit me when he was a humble man. He was not a rich man either. That was a surprise to me, to tell you the truth. And but he lived his life by faith. Faith was such a huge part of his life, and it was the bedrock of his life, going back to when he was a boy, his relationship with God and with Jesus. And he governed by principles, not by where the wind blew, that was popular. And sometimes the decisions he made were very unpopular at the time and scared people. People thought he was going to get us in a nuclear war, that he was a warmonger or this or that. But it was, in his mind, he was the first person to really stand up to the Soviets and say no. It was not there was a policy of appeasement that was going on, and he really stepped up and had a plan and a strategy to take down the Soviet Union and win the Cold War. That's the way he thought it should end, not with this coexistence. There was people behind the Iron Curtain that were tired of living that way, and he won.
I love that too. You said about how he used his faith, and he used this platform really to inspire, evangelize, bring people together, unite the world. And you do that too, Dennis. I see you're on TV. You the films that you stand behind, the films that you've been a part of. I can only imagine there's so many where you're on the forefront. You're talking very openly about your faith, your journey, and these films also have impacted and changed your life. I know your walk, your journey has been impacted. Just it's very similar to Ronald Reagan, but it's hard, right, to use the platform that you have to speak openly about whether it's faith, politics, or and go against society and go against the culture. It's challenging, right?
Well, what is, it's part of my journey, and we have a purpose in life, and it's I think just being trying to be authentic. I think it's really important for yourself. No matter what side of politics you're on or whatever, just try to live your life as authentically as possible. And that's my personal relationship with God and with Jesus Christ, which has really been a journey, to the truth. And I think that is kind of reflected in the gospel album I did last year. It's called Fallen. It's a gospel record for sinners. Because I wanted the largest possible audience I could get with that. But it really is this kind of it wound up being, it wasn't intentional, but it wound up being really kind of the story of my own spiritual journey in my life, and finally coming to know what a personal relationship with Jesus is about.
Agree. And the fact that you could talk openly about it, and that's something I love to talk to people about, especially celebrities, about how we're all broken. You know, we're all broken, and when you sort of lean on that relationship or build and develop that relationship, how your life sort of transforms in this sense of love, fulfillment, and joy, and you just want to share it with everyone, and even if they're listening or they don't want to listen, it's just something. And I commend you for
But
that.
by sharing those broken parts of yourself, it frees it's a freeing experience. It really is, because you of not living your life imprisoned by your own sin, imprisoned by all those things that you're ashamed of, maybe, or uh, felt like you had to hold inside. It's it it frees you up. It inspires other people, and it just spreads. It spreads love and hope,
Mm, I
and
love it.
faith, hope, and charity.
That's right. So now, like you said, right, that now this film's going to be released, and how do you judge a film? Well, judge the success, because yes, we want box office sales, but we also want to inspire and impact people. And you never know when you're inspiring and impacting people, leading them to Christ. How do you gauge the success of this film beyond ticket sales?
Well, first off, my hope is I want people to be entertained by this movie. I think that is really the purpose of movies, is to entertain people, to go in and sit down and kind of lose the outside world, everything, and sit down and experience this film. And I don't want it to be like a history lesson, or or a sermon, or or a political statement. It's not that. It's about this person's life, and which is an incredible story. It's kind of like the story of America, really. It's his life from as a boy, born in the teens back there,
Hmm.
all the way through when he said goodbye to the American people when he uh, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And it is a story of courage, hope, and faith, and it's a man's life, and it's a pretty interesting life.
Wow. Well, Dennis, thank you so much. I look forward to watching this film, seeing it again, watching the trailer, and enjoying the luggage tag. I'm actually traveling next week, and I'm excited to use that. When that luggage tag comes out, it says Reagan. People ask, "When's that film coming out?" Now I can tell them
Okay,
it's
you're
coming
going to
out
be
in August.
advertising right there at that baggage claim circle.
I'll just keep. I have the pen, the button, it all, and
Yeah, just let it go around a couple of times before you take it off.
I will. Dennis, thank you so much. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Walk in Faith. Always remember, you have the ability to inspire and evangelize your words and actions. God bless you.
Welcome to your life.
There's nothing a retired governor can do, but a president, now he can do a thing or two.
Everybody wants to rule the world.
I will be frank with you that as a citizen, I would not like to see any political party outlawed on the basis of its ideology, because I still believe, Mr. Chairman, that democracy can handle it.
I was a brand new KGB officer, given my first intelligence assignment. A certain actor and union leader.
Dutch, there's a purpose for your life.
You can run from a bully for so long, but after a while, you're gonna have to stand up to him.
There's about to be another war right here in Hollywood. The commies on one side, the mob on the other. And you're right in the middle, son.
If you put as much work into your career as you do making your speeches, you'd have an Oscar by now.
Hello, I'm Nancy Davis.
Hello, Nancy Davis. I'm Ron Reagan.
I'm curious, Ron.
What would you say is the issue of our time?
No question about it. Communism and the Soviet Union.
Get in the game. Run for office.
It's you!
I'm running for governor, and I would like your vote.
I forgot your name.
Do his initials help, or R?
Honey, Roy Rogers is here! And he's running for governor!
Ronnie, remember when we met? You told me that you wanted to make a difference in this world. You know what you have to do.
Governor Reagan again.
typically is against such a proposal.
There you go again.
But he was not afraid to take us on.
There's nothing a retired governor can do about the Soviets, but a president, now he can do a thing or two.
Welcome to your life.
I was a lifeguard on a river,
There's no turning back.
and I learned how to read the currents. Not just the ones on the surface, but also the ones deep underneath the water.
I am about to start the biggest war of this century, and I'm not going to fire a single shot.
You're gonna blow up 8 years of diplomacy.
Well, if you think that got their undies in a wad, you just wait.
What did the president know, and when did he know it?
What would you have me do?
I want you to fight!
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Wants to rule the world.